very much to you all for joining in this afternoon in this Export Club. And also thanks to Richard Bartlett from Export Unlocked, and also Karen Cash, who's our Export Team Supervisor. Great to have you all here, and I hope it's a success this afternoon. Over to you, Richard, if I may.
Yeah, thanks, Vic. Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everybody. A warm welcome from Cambridge Chamber on the Export Club. We're going to be talking today with Karen. I think Karen's here, hiding in the background. And we want to talk about customs, and I think it's been a huge challenge for lots and lots of businesses, as we know. And certainly in my experience of doing lots of training, and just come off a mammoth training session just an hour ago, half an hour ago. And certainly the challenges that people are facing. So we just want to really talk about that, and where the BCC and where Cambridge Chamber can really support you. We've got lots of ideas going forward with training and other elements in the Export Club, and Karen we just want to talk about what we can offer you from a customs side, because one thing I'm finding when I'm doing courses and the challenges with that, and I'm going to do a little presentation just to give you some ideas, is people are still not sure where to turn to. So this gives us a great opportunity. It gives Karen a great opportunity. So obviously, I know you'll all know Karen, but it gives us a great opportunity to really show you what we can do from a compliance point of view. The challenges there within the UK is not just about exporting and obviously importing. I know we're talking about exporting today as the Export Club, but obviously a lot of you will be importing as well. It's really just to get a really good understanding of the compliance issues we're going to face going forward. So I'm just going to do a little presentation. Karen's got some questions, and we'll open it up. We'll do 15-20 minutes, and then we'll open it up to the room. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. You know, today's about the supports, and we'll support you the best we can. And if you've got any questions, you know, feel free to please ask the questions. And we always say in international trade, there's never a silly question. Might look at you strange on the screen, but there's never a silly question in international trade. We've got people entering, so I'll just keep entering people as they join us. I'll introduce you, obviously you know Karen, but I'll introduce you quickly to Karen. Karen, just want to say a few words while I'm getting the slides up.
Hiya, yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Karen Cash at the Cambridgeshire Chamber. I'm the Export Team Supervisor, so I'm in charge of the Export Team here. We will obviously process any documentation. We will look at customs declarations, transit declarations, etc., for you. And we are here to answer any international trade and export queries.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, and from my background, just to give everybody my background, obviously I work extensively with the Cambridge Chamber. I feel I'm part of the team, not as an associate. We've been doing lots of work in the last year with Karen and Sadie, developing our exports and helping training. And we've had a really good response over the last year, and just the last course we did today, we had over 12, 13 companies visiting, which was really good. And today we'll just talk about really the challenges and the help we can give you, and where we can support you, because it is a challenge out there. There's no question that Brexit has caused its own issues, but understanding all the paperwork that's associated with that, I'm sure you've all had them challenges and not knowing where to look and etc. And when we talk about customs, we've all relied heavily on using people like the freight forwarder or using external brokers, and really facing the challenges were, you know, getting the documentation, getting the C88s and the SAD forms, and really not getting that information, which does worry me as a trade advisor. My background, 22 years in logistics and the last 7 years in trade advisory role for obviously Chambers, Institute of Exports, Trade Ireland, extensive working on the Good Friday Agreement for the last 4 years, and being based in Ireland and obviously not anymore. And also working internationally for the ICC Academy International Chamber, developing courses for the WTO, Qatar Development Bank and all other areas, and got my first course in 2 weeks' time in Mexico, which is online, which is a real shame. I was actually thought I was getting on a plane, which I think that's the thing that we're not going to see. But I got a bit giddy, I must admit, for at least half an hour, and then I realised it was online when they gave me the link. So it was a bit disappointed from that side, but that's going to be a challenge. And again, international trade, what we'll talk about today, is very important as the UK enters a new world of trading. So if you're exporting, yes, there are challenges there. This won't go away. It's really understanding the challenges, what we face, and how we think the BCC or the British Chamber and certainly Cambridge, how we can support you in the customs declaration, mainly from a compliance, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail today. So I'll start off. If anybody, like I said, has got any questions, if you want to put them in the chat room, and Karen can pick them up, or Sadie and the team, and we'll certainly answer, or we'll open the room up anyway once we've finished the course. Challenges, I put exports and imports. I've included imports because I know a lot of you do both. You do exports, even though it's Export Club today. You'll also do imports as well. And there's been some huge challenges there. We know that. And one of the difficulties, particularly in the UK, is the way the trade deal has been done. It's a bit confusing because on one hand, we have exporters who have got huge challenges from day one on January the 1st, that they're suddenly having to go into full customs. And then we've got importers who are still in the transition period, where there's a transition period where the supplementary declarations being done, not full declarations. And that doesn't go live probably until the 1st of October if there's food products entering the UK on the hard border. And then on the 1st of January, as we enter the new world of border checks from the UK for everybody, goods coming in from the EU. So it's a bit confusing a lot of times. So hopefully we'll address that today. Estimated, just to give you some figures here, and I'll give you some clear figures as well as we talk today. We anticipate 250 million data inputs. And when we say data inputs, that's exports and imports being driven on a platform that goes into the chief system that allows us to leave the UK or enter the UK. And with that, there's huge challenges facing doing the correct C88 and SAD forms. That all comes off your commercial documentation. If your commercial documentation is not correct, that causes a lot of problems when you're doing brokerage. Now, my background, I've been fortunate, or I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. I'm a trainer for brokerage, so I do a lot of the training for Irish Customs and the HMRC side, so that we know there's challenges there. I was doing some figures this week, and I said it in the last course today, so I apologise if anybody's jumped on today from the course. I was doing some figures just with, I work with a lot of forwarders doing the training, making sure kind of documentation and what they're doing. And interesting, I was speaking to one not so far away from here, one of the big ones, and actually he's based in Cambridge, which is always bizarre in itself. And I was getting some figures, and we were looking at June last year. So we thought we'd compare June last year to June this year, just to get an idea of declarations. And last year, they handled about 111 documentations, import and export declarations. So just give you an idea. And in June this year, for the same customers, they've had a few extra customers, they've lost customers, obviously, because of the challenges. They've done 21,500 docs or declarations, including probably about 4 docs with that. And we've anticipated around about 84,000 documents they've handled just in June as a company or as a freight forwarder. And when you look at last year, it's probably about 260. So you can see the huge challenges that's faced and facing many exporters when they're sending goods out, and importers, the challenges the freight forwarders are having. So when you've had delays, when goods are going out, you've had, why is it taking so long? A lot of it is the challenges with the brokerage side of it. So again, we're going to talk about how BCC fits into that. I call it British Chamber, but obviously Cambridge Chamber, how we fit in and how we can help you support that. We know there's lots of errors, and Karen will jump in a minute with this. We know when we're doing courses, myself and Karen has done a lot of coursework, we know there's lots of challenges there. We know when I'm doing audits, because I do audits and compliance checks on businesses, I can assure you there's lots and lots of issues there. Even to the extent that actually most businesses in the UK are not even getting the C88s or the SAD forms back from the forwarder or even the broker. They're not even seeing that copy. So how they can check it is very, very difficult. We know there's, when they are getting them back, there's lots of errors and data input there that are not being declared properly. So that's creating a lot of problems from a compliance point. And we know that Cambridge Chamber are here to help local businesses or any businesses support them with the C88s and the SAD forms. Karen, I don't know if you want to, because we've seen this a lot, haven't we, Karen, in the last, I would say in the last few months, we've certainly seen a lot of challenges when people have been on our courses where you've been joining me.
Yeah, definitely. And I've even had one today from an existing chamber member who's obviously using another customs agent in the chamber, sending me a copy of their customs entry saying, I don't understand why these figures are all different across the board of this entry. Can you help? And, whilst we want to try and help, at the same time, we can't act as a customs agent unless we're the customs agent. So it's quite difficult, and it does just highlight that there's still a lot of people that are processing this information, whether it's sending it to their customs agent or receiving it to check, and they don't actually have any knowledge. So the training courses that we're offering to get that knowledge is really important.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So we are doing myself, Sadie and Karen, we put together some BCC courses and some new courses that we're going to be introducing towards the end of this year. And again, we've highlighted, and we're really trying to help businesses. So if any of you today are on the course today on the Export Club, which is fantastic, and hopefully we'll be carrying on this on a monthly basis, there's challenges there. So again, today was all about where we can support you, where we can help you, because the one thing you have to remember, as we've entered a customs world, you'll be expected under your compliance to be having copies and checking these copies and checking everything when you're exporting, and also vice versa when you're importing. And that's the challenge. And if you're not getting that form, well, how do you do it? How do you check it? And we'll talk about the difference between what we would say a broker with we're not saying they're doing anything wrong, because they're under the enormous pressure and the folders, but where BCC and Cambridge Export Team can really help you here with your documentation and your transit docs as we go along. Again, these were the big challenges for the UK as we left, and I'm sure a lot of you have faced this, not just to the extent that we have to do an export declaration. We've also got to think about if we've got animal origin products that we're all of a sudden have to do export health certificates, all these challenges that we probably never even thought about when we was part of a 28 member state club. And all of a sudden when we've left that, we lose a lot of them rights, even to the extent of export licenses. So when we're sending goods, when we say dual use is basically means that your product can be used as the place where it's going to, where it's manufactured or where it's being exported to, or if it's in the wrong hands, it can go to somewhere else which we can use for something else. And dual use is very important to understand if you're doing something as simple as a computer. You know, a computer then suddenly may have to have a dual use license to be exported into Europe, whereas before you could just purely send goods under a domestic market. And why do you need a license? Because you need a license to make sure that them goods are going to where they should. Because if they get in the wrong hands in the military or anything like that, they can be used for the wrong reasons. So again, it's having that due diligence, that you're making sure that you're covering all the areas. And these are things that we've probably not had to think about in the past, even to the extent of carnets. Now, carnets, obviously passport, if we're doing exhibitions or we're moving temporary stuff or we're moving a machine back and then sending it back, carnets are becoming more and more prominent now in the UK. And this is something that we can do under the chamber. We don't do it at Cambridge Chamber, but we can certainly support you with some of our chambers who offer the carnet. But they're the challenges. And even to the extent we had today, if you're exporting your goods into the EU, make sure you're using the wooden packaging under the ISPM 15 pallet system. Because that will be part and parcel of what you should be doing. They're not being checked at the moment. It's something to have a think about as you start your export journey. Sorry, my screen's been on fun and games today. So if you get something, so this is the SAD form, and this is the SAD form. So as today is the team on the Export Club, if you're exporting your goods, this is the form that is filled out and done for you on behalf of either your company from the broker or from the freight forwarder. This is the copy you should be receiving back. And in a lot of cases, it's being done for you, but you don't see this copy. It's very important. It's a legal document that you need to check, because if a customs officer did come and do a check, I'm pretty certain they won't be coming soon. But when they start to do the visits and start visits again after COVID, these are the areas they're going to be checking. They're going to be making sure that exporters are keeping to compliance and procedures. And, you know, as you export, anything you export out of the UK now requires a SAD form or a single administration document, or as a UK, we know it's a C88, and that's required for either an import coming into the UK or an export leaving the UK. And this is where the chamber now can support you. Export entries and import entries are the same. It's the same form. It's just that it's listed on the form as either an import or an export. One thing, if you are importing, and I've noticed this a lot, and I don't know if Karen's coming across this, we talked about this, Karen, is on your imports. A lot of people are bringing imports in, and the brokers and the forwarders who are doing this are bringing it under a simplified system. And what that means is it allows the goods to enter the UK under the transition period, but it is your responsibility as of now to start declaring the goods that you've been bringing in since January. You've got a 6-month period. So again, you must check that And we've noticed that, Karen, a lot, haven't we, where people are bringing goods in under a simplified procedure, not realising then they have to do a full declaration.
Yeah, we've had several over the last month or so. All of a sudden, a massive influx as you got towards the end of June, beginning of July, when the initial deadline was, where goods have arrived February, March time, and all of a sudden they've realised no one's actually done an import entry. So they can't actually complete it their end for customs duties and bits and pieces. So there is quite a lot of that. It is very important just to make sure that anything that you're receiving into the UK, you have got the right entry being made.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And the exciting things now is obviously everybody who's had that lovely challenge of exporting into Northern Ireland under the Trade Support Scheme, which is a challenge in itself just to get working. The Chamber now are offering the CDS system into Northern Ireland, so you can do a full declaration. That's available as of, you're offering this, Karen, at the Cambridge?
Cambridge is actually able to offer it from October onwards, but any chamber members, any Cambridge chamber members that are looking for this, you can still come to us. We can actually get those entries through the system before we've officially got the access, because the chamber customs network is 52 chambers across the UK. We can utilise the ones that are already up and running. And the reason that we can't do it till October is because there's only so many chambers they can set live and give them the initial support from chamber customs at one time. Yeah. So all the chambers are being staggered. But yeah, don't let it phase you that if you've got anything now that Cambridge physically won't be pressing that button, because we will be the ones that will be feeding the information if that's what you need us to do.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so if you want to move forward, because this is, and I'll just explain this quickly so just people understand. If you're moving goods at the moment into Northern Ireland with the XI number, and an XI Euro number is what is required when you're shipping into Northern Ireland, you would be required to use a trade support system. And that's the system that the government is running as part of the agreement under the trade agreement and to support British businesses or GB businesses. And it acts as a customs. So you'd have to then fill in a TSS in that system, and it allows the folder then to move your goods into Northern Ireland. But this has been flawed and it has many issues because, again, we have the same problem. It's now a supplementary document, so it's not a full declaration that you're doing into Northern Ireland. This is why the BCC have looked at this and introduced a CDS system that you'll be able to do. So, yeah, if you want to ship into Northern Ireland, just book it with Karen anyway. They can help you and they'll sort it out until they go live themselves. But it's all under one umbrella. And the Chamber will help you support this. So again, like Karen said, if you want to use CDS, you want to do a full declaration, the charges. Karen, have you got charges yet for CDS?
We have in the background, so I can get some sent out to anybody that wants to know. That's not a problem.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And then we've introduced as well now the transit documents, which is the transit T1 forms are now available. Now, what that means is, what's a T1? People always ask, what is a T1 document? A T1 document is a transit doc that allows goods to move through territories within Europe. So if you're moving goods out of the UK and you're moving it via France into Italy, a T1 is required for you to move them goods. If it's a full load, to allow to do a T1 document that allows you to move through France. It's checked once and it's allowed to move to the territory it's moving to, so it can go through different borders without being checked all the time. And the BCC again, Cambridge, are you doing that from now, Karen? The transit docs?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're doing the transit docs. So, do you like that? I'm asking Karen. I'm just making sure, Karen. I'm pretty sure you're doing it, but I'm just checking that I don't go on with myself and then realise it's not till October.
So I have to keep muting myself and unmuting. So you just bear with me while I find my
Yeah, yeah. We're like some two, myself and Karen. But yeah, so we can offer that transit dot. So if you are doing T1s, the Chamber now can help you support that. What I like about the Chamber, and this is from an external point, because as Karen said in the team, know I do a lot of auditing. My partner with my business Export Unlocked was head of customs in Europe for over 30 years, Tom McGrath. And we've certainly seen the challenges of compliance. What I like about the BCC, they've taken this serious, they're doing it proper, they've had full training. And what I like even more is actually the documentation that's provided from Chamber Cambridge and other obviously chambers, is it's clear, precise, clear information and documentation from a C88 SAD form to the T1 forms. You're getting that all supplied to you pretty quick. We're not seeing that at the moment. The company I was with just before, I was with 13 businesses, and 7 businesses had never seen a C88, even though they've been shipping since day one. Not because they haven't seen one, because they've been requesting it and they just can't get it off the forwarder. You'll get this. This is all it's all produced, and Karen will just talk how that'll be. So I assume, Karen, could you just tell us when they fill the form in, they're doing a C88 SAD form, how quickly are BCC then sending that information to the customer?
We send it as soon as the entries come through. I mean, the system itself delivers it within a matter of minutes, and we're then basically forwarding it to the customers.
Yeah. Brilliant. And that's really important, because I know a lot of you who are on today will be facing that challenge. You know, how do I check a C88 if I haven't got it? And that's the beauty about working with your local chamber, who'll be doing all that for you. And they'll also produce the other copies that go through Chief to show that it's been done. Where can you help in the information needed on a C88 or a SAD form? Now, most of you would have already done your documentation, but it's very important to understand the documentation that you're supplying, whether it's chamber or anybody else. You've got clear, precise instructions on there. Obviously, you as the exporter with your UA number, your commodity codes, you must check your commodity codes. You know, if you're sending a multitude of commodity codes out into Europe or into Ireland, you must make sure the commodity 8 digits you're using are correct, because don't forget the exposure as an exporter is with your importer in the country it's going into. And if there's issues there, that's why you have delays. Because when you're clearing goods in Italy and Germany can take up to 72 hours to clear goods, just to clear goods. And if there's the wrong information, what's been put on there, because it's been wrongly supplied by you as the exporter, that's going to create more delays. And that's why we're seeing lots and lots of delays in countries. It's settling down now. We're starting to see a more settled environment when we're sending goods out, but there's still issues there. Again, your origin plays a critical role as an exposure, because if you're UK exporter, you've got to make sure that it is a UK export when you're doing that on your invoice and declaration. Because don't forget, now with the agreement with the EU under the TCA agreement, the UK can stipulate on the invoice that these goods meet the preferential agreement of zero duty because it's a UK origin. But you must be very clear that if somebody checks it, you must be clear that you can prove that it is an origin of a UK. And again, Chamber can support that and help you when you're looking at your origins, if it's something you need to look at. And your CPC codes determines when they're being exported and where they're going to. So CPC code, in most general terms, if it's an export, it'd be 10,000. And what that means, it's going into open general sale, and there'll be duty and VAT payable once it reaches the customer in EU or Ireland or wherever it's going to. But if it was going into any special procedure, you'd need to know that, so the customer then doesn't pay any duties and VAT if it was going into bond or into inward processing. The whole system allows things to be suspended. So that's the point of a CPC. And keeping your commercial documents is very important. If you've got any licenses, please make sure you're doing licenses. And the biggest challenge we've had more than anything is Incoterms. Always remember, your Incoterms determines on who has the responsibility to do the export declaration and the import declaration when you're selling the goods. You've got to be very clear. If you're using Ex Works, it's not particularly a great term to use because it puts challenges on you, and there are ways of going around that, which again, we'll talk about in a bit more detail as I pass you over to Karen and make with some questions. And again, DAP will deliver to your customer, but please remember, under DAP, when you deliver the goods to your customer, it's his responsibility as he receives the goods to do his own import declaration in the country where he's in and to pay any duties and VAT. If you're doing DDP, just be very careful if you're doing DDP, because you're taking all the risk. And again, Ex Works, you've no real control of them goods moving, and FCA could be a better term to use, where you'll be the exporter record. You'll do the export declaration. Again, you can speak to Karen and the team. If you've got lots of customers where you've got a lot of Ex Works, and this is where I think it works really well at customs and having a broker like Karen and the team at Cambridge. If you're doing a lot of goods, what you might be better off doing if you're doing a lot of Ex Works, because it really puts a lot of pressure on you, because if a customs comes in to do checks, you've no clear records under your Ex Works. Changing that to FCA would allow you to do the export declaration allow Karen and the team to do the export declaration for you, to create the master reference number. So when the customer comes in to collect the goods from your premises, you've already done the export declaration, the exporter record, and you will give that master reference number to the driver, who can then clearly just leave the UK because it's already been done. So FCA is a good term for that, and BTC, British Chamber and Cambridge Chamber can do that for you, so that's no problem. So that's a good term to use. And then, like I say, if you're doing DAP, but Ex Works, again, just be careful, you are doing Ex Works, it puts a lot of challenges on you. Just transit docs, so we're introducing transit docs. Karen, do you just want to talk what you're offering on the transit docs as a quick, and then I'll explain what they are. That makes sense.
Yeah, of course. So we're offering the full T1, T2 service. So we can do both options for you, but we will only be looking at doing transit for people that are asking for the export entries to be done at the same time. So we can't have, so you couldn't, for instance, have one customs agent doing your export entry and then come to us as your transit customs agent. We would only amalgamate the two.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you're doing both together, which is better. And you know, my advice to anybody here today, if you're going to use, you know, you better keep them in-house the same, because otherwise it can get messy. So again, think about the chamber and think, you know, if you're thinking about your brokerage and you think, well, the forwarder's doing it and you're not getting copies of this, have a think about your compliance. Just have a think about your compliance. If an officer came in tomorrow and he wanted to check your documents and you said to him, well, I can't get that information, I need to get it off my folder, he won't take that, he won't accept that. You know, this is why when you're looking now you've got time and it's settled down, you can now start to have a look at who's doing your customs. This is where I think Cambridge Chamber really play an important part to local businesses, because you'll get all that information at a touch of a button. Once you send that commercial invoice, you've got all that information. You can keep the filing system, you can check it if there's any errors with it, because what you'll find with errors, and you know, as Karen knows, I spend my life doing this with customs. You know, I was with a customer last week who spent £4,500 on anti-dumping rates in Ireland because he's doing DDP. He's not seeing a C88 or a SAD form. He's getting billed for it. He's paying it. He has no idea what he's paying. I've done an audit check and I've realised he's paying all this extra anti-dumping rate on foil that is actually coming from Turkey, not from China. And the data input that somebody's put in there has made a mistake. What you must always remember, there will be mistakes made, but if you're not getting the copies, you can't check them and they get messy. And what you'll find with most of the forwarders and brokers, they won't want to reissue new ones. Whereas if it's been done quickly, you can check it, you can make sure it's okay. If there's an issue, you can just say to them, I'm sorry, I'll give you the wrong information. They can change that quickly as the shipments are going out. So it's a really good system, the way Cambridge Chamber are offering the customs, and it will help you, especially from a compliance. So T2s, I'll just explain this. So T1s allow goods to move through territories, and it allows you to not be stopped and pay any duties. So when it arrives with a customer, once they've paid the duties and the VAT, the T1's closed. But we also have T2s where goods are moving within EU. And let's just say you was moving EU to Ireland, but they were using the UK as a land bridge because the UK is a customs territory now. They will be allowed to move through there under a T2 where no documentation, no duties, but it allows a vehicle to enter the UK under the T2 document. And T2L is mainly used if somebody's paid all the duties. If you're moving goods and you paid the duty on this side, it allows the goods to move under a T2. And then we have different special territories where we need certain procedures. But again, we're offering at the Chamber T1s. Are you offering T2s as well, Karen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You look very serious then, Karen, when I said that.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Can't multitask.
So again, sorry, yeah, but so we do get giddy at this time. So compliance issues, many exporters struggling to understand the requirements. We know that, and we're here to support you. We've got a whole range of training programs, which Sadie is happy to share with you. And we've been doing a lot of different ones. And if there is anything that you feel that might be useful from a training, you know, that you might think, you know, we want training on this, please, you know, ask. And this is what we're going to be doing as the Export Club. We're going to be bringing new ideas and where we can support you as a club. But training workshop, there's many there. You can have a bespoke training if you want it, or you can come on one of our regular ones that we have mostly every 2 weeks. I don't know if Sadie's on at the moment, but we have regular workshops that, you know, we have a good following, we have good good workshops. They're not too long. We're trying to keep them 10 till 2:30. He says after finishing at 3:10 today. But you know, and the reason, you know, why did we finish at 3:10? We finished at 3:10 because we had 12 businesses all had concerns about certain things. So we made sure as our workshop and where we feel we're different, we actually sat and went through all the issues of each customer and made sure we answered all the questions. So when they left that training today, they actually had all that knowledge, what they needed. So that's, I think, where we're slightly different. We use it as a workshop and it's very open to questions, etc. We're here to help and support, and I class myself as part of the team. You know, so if there's any questions, we'll always try and support you the best we can. The customs declaration service, you know, I think this will build and build with Cambridge because I think once you get used to using a system that works very well, yes, there's a cost there, but from a compliance issue, it will really work towards your customs and your compliance and your SOP, standard operations procedures. It's part and parcel of having your commercial documentation, your packing list, your SAD form, all the requirements that you need, that if a customs officer wants to do checks, it's all there and it's all very clean. And again, we have lots of training up to date, and part of the Export Club will be doing updates on different things we're doing going forward. Training available, like I said, different workshops. We cover all aspects of international training, international trade. We've got lots of experience and real life experience, so we can certainly give you some real life situations, and we're there to support you. And like I said, there is bespoke training, and we also do, myself and Sadie have been working on a project this year. We're doing a lot of compliance now, so we'll help you with the compliance and the auditing. So again, please speak to Sadie if that's something of interest to you, and we'll get you audited ready, because what we tend to do is normally go in after the event when somebody had an audit, and we'll go and put the things in place. But wouldn't it be nice to have that check done before? So it's something we're going to be looking at this year to offer something more bespoke, or maybe offer some support on getting your procedure manuals done. So you've got procedures going forward, and that'll all fit in with the customs. We're trying to change the way we work because there's challenges to us. We're losing a lot of things because everything's going digital. But the support of the chamber is invaluable to me. You know, I always think it's part of the family, and it's great that you've all joined us today. I don't know if you want to add anything in there, Cam, before we jump on questions.
No, that sounds all good to me. You can.
Yeah,
Crack
I'm
on.
going to open it up. So yeah, I didn't want to go on with myself today because I've just spent 5.5 hours going on and on. So I've tried to keep it as short as possible. But any questions, and we'll feel free. I think you've got some there in the chat room, Karen. So if you want to.
Yeah, we have. So there's a couple that obviously I've addressed. So we'll go through them anyway. So the first one that we've got is actually is about country of origin. So this will bring you right back into where we were talking about our training courses that we offer as well. So there is specific training courses that cover rules of origin as well.
Yeah.
So the question is basically, is the country of origin the country of manufacture or the country of last use, as suggested by DEFRA? Now, obviously with origin, I mean, Richard knows an awful lot about this, but so basically origin, it's the last substantial process of an item. So it would really depend on whether the country of manufacture, as you declare it, and the country of last use, are they actually doing any processes to that item that would make a significant change to what it is? So are they bringing in, I mean, if DEFRA is involved, it's presumably something of an animal origin. So are they bringing in live cattle, slaughtering it and selling it as steaks? In which case, the country of origin may well change. But it all depends on the percentages. Correct me if I'm wrong, Richard.
Well, that's fine. And funny enough, yes, I can. Funny enough, I'll explain that today, because I came across one today actually on the course. So a company on the course today based in Cambridge, they have another company based in Ireland. I won't obviously mention who they are, and they sent some goods to. So the Cambridge company sends some goods to Cambridge, and they literally just label. So they put labels on, and then they send these goods to Turkey. And what's happened is they've been sending these goods to Turkey under the UK origin. So in the old days, it would be the old ATR or on the statement value now, as we know when we're going into Turkey. But customs officers in Turkey have actually questioned this and said, can you prove that these goods are of a UK origin? And it turns out that the company in Belfast actually have not been using an ATR, but the customer in Turkey has been claiming preferential zero duty. And this is, I was explaining this today to the company, because you're just putting a label on it, you're not changing the origin of the products. And origin of products is where originally originates from. So a good example here for everybody today, if you bring in lots of raw material in and you're bringing it in, and what happens, you're bringing it in under one commodity, you're then changing the commodity because you're making it into a whole used product. Well, you're doing value, you're doing commodity change, and you're also doing a big transformation. In most cases, you'll be doing an origin change very clearly. But if you're just bringing it in and you're putting labels, etc. on it, that's not enough work to be doing to something that changes the origin. So you've always got to remember that. So, and always remember, when you're sending goods anywhere around the world, the origin is very critical. It's where the origin of the product originates from, unless you've done any work to it. So again, under this accumulation agreement and under the transformation, if you brought goods in from Europe, so I'll just explain this. So one of the confusion parts is you buy products in from Europe, you don't do anything with it, and then you send it back into Europe. It comes in from under the REX scheme into the UK, no duty, because obviously it's part of the Europe. But now you're sending them same goods from the UK into Europe, and you're not doing anything to it. Don't forget, it's the origin of the products in the UK. It's an EU product. All of a sudden, there's third country duty, because the origin of the products under the CCA agreement is the origin has to be of a UK origin when it's being shipped in the EU if you've done nothing to it. And that's where it's caused a lot of problems with Tesco's and other big players, where they've brought goods in, sent it into Ireland, and then they've been hit with duty. And that's where it gets confusing. But yeah, as Karen said, it's the transformation you're doing to it and the added value you're doing to that product from the Ex Works. It's very important to understand that. Sorry, I know it was a bit long-winded, but I just wanted to give you a live example today.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And that links into one of the other questions that says basically what is traces, what is CHED P and CHED D. Now, obviously traces is it's an online platform, I believe, and it is how you apply for your sanitary and phytosanitary certificates for the import of animals, animal products, and sort of animal feed, etc. The CHED P and the CHED D. So you've got, one is a common health document for products of animal origin, and one is the common health entry document for the food and feed of non-animals origin. So I'm not overly au fait with the process of those systems, because at the Chamber we don't actually deal with the process of those documents. We see the end result. So Richard, do you have more information on that? Or
yeah, so traces is used. So if you're exporting into Europe, traces is the system that it's a digital system that allows the importer to put the information on with your health certificate and your CHED certificate to allow the goods to enter into Europe. If you're importing from Europe, and please make a note of this, on the 1st of October, the UK will adopt a hard border with food, where there'll be a certificate required. You'll need to be registered under IPAF. So traces is Europe, so it's only used for imports into Europe. Goods coming into the UK will use the IPAF system. And the UK has adopted a new system, quite an unusual system, where what will happen is it'll be the responsibility of the exporter in Europe to get a health certificate. That health certificate will be given to you on the IPAFs. You'll register on the IPAF system when it enters the UK, and that will allow the goods to come in. They've made it very simplified, but the health certificate will be required, and the number that's on the CHED will be needed to be given to you on the IPAFs that you'll put on. If you've got the government gateway, IPAFs is on the government gateway. It's very simple to use, a very easy system. We do training. We do have, I'm not sure we do training. We have a training course on it, but we don't do it, but we can offer that as part and parcel, because it's something I do training on. So if you're importing, it's IPAFs. If you're exporting, it's your importer's responsibility to do the traces to allow the goods to enter Europe. And if it's coming into the UK, you'll need IPAFs from the 1st of October, and the health certificates will all go on the IPAF system. It's very simple to use, so don't be too worried about it.
okay. Next question. If there's an issue with a T1 and it's not closed, who is responsible for the duty due? We currently have a T1 currently left open and in dispute because the border official in Romania is on holiday for 2 weeks. So I believe that is unfortunately the exporter.
Yeah, it
that's
depends who's
created
doing
the
it.
T1.
Yeah, so it depends who's doing it, Karen. I mean, if the haulier is doing it, obviously the haulier. If it's a groupage doing it, then it will be the haulier who will have to get that closed. But what I would say, and I don't want to frighten Karen or anybody today, is most T1s that have gone into Europe have not been closed, a lot of them. That's what we're finding, because we've had issues there. But I think if you use somebody like the Chamber, but again, could I just ask the question, who's on that today? Is it a groupage shipment you've sent to Romania with a folder? I don't know who's asked that question, Karen.
Howard.
Sorry, Howard's come back. Yeah, so the folder, as the folder come back to you, really the folder then should close that once it's been released. But what they'll do, they'll probably put it in storage and then deliver the goods. They might charge you, if your customer or the border, they might charge you a fee for storing it. And then it'll be closed, the T1. What we found, Howard, with a lot of T1s, and it's probably a good time that Cambridge Chamber coming in kind of later in the sequence in this, is that a lot of T1s, a lot of confusion there, and a lot of T1s were left open, lots of them left open. I had a chat with the Treasury not so long ago when I had a meeting with them on the T forms. It is a challenge, but I don't think it would come back to you as a customer, because it's really the importing, again, depending on what Incoterms you're using and who's took out the T1. It would normally be your folder who's done that. So they'll keep the goods, they'll deliver them, and then they'll close the T1 form for you. That's what should happen, Howard.
Okay, and then the other one in the chat, it actually goes back to the origin. So the question, so basically the question again from Howard again is, if the items are used in the UK before being sold as used, is this considered a significant process, or should we be trying to establish the country of origin? Yes, you should definitely be trying to establish the country of origin, just using the goods. So, for instance, buying a mobile phone, selling it as a used mobile phone, you haven't changed the origin of that item by using it in any way, shape, or form. It's still a mobile phone. So you do need to have information as to where the original product comes from.
Yeah, that's right, Karen. And what I would say to people, if you are claiming UK origin and you're doing lots of raw materials and you're doing lots of processing, and you have got suppliers, you're going to have to do your suppliers declaration. What does that mean? Your suppliers who are supplying you on the raw material will have to then, you should be sending them a suppliers declaration, which they'll stamp, or they'll stamp it to say this product originates from wherever it originates from. And that's what you need in your filing system for when you're creating your origin as a UK. That's your proof that what you've done with all the raw material, with all the different origins, to what you prove to make it into a UK origin. But that'll be a question. You see, in the old days, the Chamber did all this for you. It was brilliant. But unfortunately, the Chamber now, because everything's going digital, a lot of the pressure is now actually on the customer. And it's something probably in our export club will probably, Karen, if when we get this going, it's probably we might look at this in more detail and do some like export club sessions on this to support exporters, because it is a grey area and it's a difficult one. Now, I would say 9 times out of 10, you'll get away with whatever you put on that statement on your invoice. But please remember, if somebody checks it, you've got to be able to prove that where you got that origin. You might not get fined, but your customer in Europe will get heavily fined by UCC customs. And that could cause a bit of a rift between you and your customer. And there's one thing you don't want to do is lose a customer. So, you know, a lot of the pressure's been taken off a UK exporter. If you're importing, very important, on the 1st of January, the REX system will be introduced. I believe it's still going ahead. And Karen might correct me if I'm wrong. The REX system will be introduced that all exports coming into the UK from an EU customer will have to be REX registered to prove that the origin of the products is of EU. It's called the Register Exporter Scheme. And that number, REX, with the name of the country where it's been supplied from, that's a unique certificate of origin digital. So it can be checked at any time. It's very important. If any of you are importing, I know we're talking about exports today, but if any of you are importing from Europe, make sure that your suppliers are fully aware that if they are claiming preferential duty for you to get zero duty, they are using the REX scheme. They can adopt it, they can get it free of charge, it don't cost them anything, but they need a REX number for that product that they're sending to you. Thanks, Karen.
Not a problem. Just as a sideline, so just to reiterate, anyone that has any kind of gap in their knowledge, they have any significant concerns, have a look at the training courses on our website. The titles give an indication as to what they are. If you don't feel that you can ascertain whether or not which course would be applicable for you and the knowledge that you're struggling to find, just drop us an email with what it is that you feel that you need assistance with long term, and we will determine which course would better suit you, or alternatively, like Richard has said, we can look at bespoke training in-house in company.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I mean, I would say if you do come on a course and we, you know, we do have it where people obviously book on a course and it's not, the course is not that relevant, I'll always make sure we cover the topics that you're concerned about. So never worry about that. It's very much a workshop, as people who are here today will know that we keep everybody involved. So we wouldn't not answer a question just because it's not within the course. I'll always answer that for you. So don't ever worry about that. But it'd be easier if you maybe speak to Sadie and Karen and we can put you together which we think is the right course for you to attend. I had to put my teeth in then, I nearly couldn't get that attend. It's been a long day, sorry everybody. I haven't started with my jokes yet, so you're safe. There's quite a few questions coming through there, Karen.
Yeah, so I'm just responding to another one, sort of specifically, which was basically asking if we know any broker who can clear an animal byproduct at the German border. Now, we don't know specifically of any customs clearance agencies, but obviously as the chamber network, we've got access to chambers across the globe. So what my proposal is if you drop me an email, just again reiterating that question, what I can do is I can approach the German Chamber of Commerce and they may well be able to suggest a brokering agent for you or put you in contact.
Yep.
And I think that was all the questions at this stage, Richard.
Yep.
So.
Good. Excellent.
All right. So does anyone else have any other questions at all? Or is there anything that anyone else would like to maybe cover off?
I think Vic might want to jump in. Vic, do you want to jump in?
Waving at us.
Yeah, you're waving, Vic, at us.
I was hesitating in case somebody jumped in with a question. I was just going to say, I mean, of course, thank you to you guys for putting this on. And thank you to everyone for joining in and asking so many challenging questions. And of course, if anyone's not a member of the Chambers of Commerce and you want to find out more, please do talk to us, because I think that gets you sort of discounted rates with some of the work that Karen and the team do for you. But most importantly is it keeps us in touch with you so we can keep telling you all the good things that Richard's doing, all the new courses that are coming up. And it's just to say, look, if we can help, we're here to help. So please let us know if you want to join and what else we can do for you. But that was just my tuppence, and just to say thanks to you both, because I thought that was excellent. It certainly improved my understanding.
Thanks, Vic.
We've just
Julie,
had a discussion, haven't we?
yeah, Julie's just asked if you can cover off anti-dumping again. So there's still a sort of a grey area over the anti-dumping. So Julie, what sort of question have you got with regards to the anti-dumping? Just says we can cover specific.
Is it just a general, Julie? Julie, I mean, it's probably the topic just.
I'll see if I can unmute her.
Yeah.
She'll shout at me.
I've seen a charge, right? This is very important to understand, and I'll just address this to the group. So anti-dumping, you know, we're coming across this quite a lot actually, particularly in Ireland and other places. What's anti-dumping? Anti-dumping is a ruling where if a product is sold into a country at a very low rates, or the flood in the market, or it's against protection of a country, we have anti-dumping rulings. And what that does, it gives it an answer. So you have a duty rate and an anti-dumping rate, which protects jobs and security within a country it's going into, not just the UK, within Europe. And recent big cases that have been awarded, and this will go through the WTO. The EU have just, with steel rods, have just won a landmark case against China and Korea, flooding the market, which affects 3,000 jobs within EU for the cheap products they're bringing in. So they've got an anti-dumping agreement of 36% dutiable on that. So when the goods come in, what anti-dumping is, you get the duty rate plus the anti-dumping, and that brings it at the level that it should be when it's reaching a country. So you've not got an unfair advantage where you're flooding the market cheap. Bicycles is probably the best example, and I'm sorry to bore everybody to tears who've been on my courses. We're bringing bikes in. I dealt just recently with some entrepreneurs, some young lads who are bringing bikes in from, or wanted to bring in from China, and they engaged with me, and I explained to them that they've worked out all the costs, 15% duty, and they've got the freight costs with that. But what they didn't realise, and I was explaining to them that bicycles have a very high anti-dumping ruling, particularly from China, and I explained to them that actually then bikes would cost them 63% duty. Because there's a protection there on bicycles entering at a low margin coming into the UK. So there's an extra dutiable charge there, not on everything. So Halfords or anybody else who's buying it could have an agreement within that ruling where they don't pay as much. But generally, you'll pay 60% for that. So again, it's making sure that anti-dumping is very clear. And that's where the origin comes from. So let's just say you're exporting under the WTO. So what happens with the WTO? If you have a trade agreement with the country, it's called a preference, and a preference means that there's a zero duty on the products and the commodity codes as long as you meet the origin criteria. But if you don't, and there's no trade agreement there, so the UK don't have trade agreements with China, with the US, you then work under the WTO, which is a non-preferential. So the WTO then acts as that, as a most favoured nation. And what happens there is that you've got to prove the origin of that product, because there could be some anti-dumping in there under the WTO. There could be some quotas in there. There could be some protection in there. And that's why your origin is critical, to understand exactly where that product's coming from. Because you could be sending some goods into Ireland, and I've just had this recently. A customer just sent some foil into Ireland, like I said earlier, and he's paid 38.5% duty on it because they've mentioned it as China. And with China and foil coming into the EU and UK, and particularly in the EU, there's a 38% duty rate on that. Because the origin of the products is not of the UK, but actually it was Turkey. And with Turkey, there's no dutiable anti-dumping rates. There's duty, but there's no anti-dumping rates on there. So hopefully, Karen, I've explained that the best way.
Yeah, and I did actually just see the second line of the question when I scrolled down a bit further. It basically said, could you cover anti-dumping again, as I've seen a charge on a UPS invoice? So that's likely based on the origin and the commodity code that's been declared on that customs entry.
Yeah, so you
would need to check that has been entered correctly as per the goods that you would anticipate seeing. Yeah,
it's very important to understand as the UK has entered a new territory of UK customs, you're going to have huge challenges. So I know Vic, and we've talked about this, maybe as an export club, we'll start to do some updates on this. And again, we'll work with everybody on here today what you want from that export club, because it's something we want to try and develop as we go along and be supporting there, and having an hour once a month, having an hour or 2 hours on there as an export club and doing some talks and getting some people who can do some discussions on international trade. Very important.
Definitely. And I think that is it then. So if nobody else has any other questions, obviously you can always email us at the chamber. We've got some generic emails. I will just drop the 2 generic emails in the chat. One is a general, just international trade and export email. And the other one, you'll see by the email address, it's clearly for customs declarations, transit, etc. So if you do need any information from the team, you can obviously contact us on those as well.
I think we'll need to keep the call open for just a minute or two, because unlike Teams, Zoom chat doesn't save, of course. So we need to give people a chance to copy those email addresses.
Yeah, not a problem. So there's the 2 addresses in the chat now for you. Obviously, anyone can give us a call as well, and we'll deal with any incoming calls as and when they happen.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, and thanks everybody. Thanks for attending today. I know, there's a lot of things we've discussed there, but again, this is what international trade. Been in this a long time. It's very important to get that support when you need it. So please feel free to ask any questions you've got going forward with Karen and the team.
Okay, I think that's long enough for people to have copied the link. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.